Hello, Spring here. Got the XJR in bits. I've had a suspicion that the fuel tap was not quite all it should be for a while. Last couple of weeks, while the bike's been sat in the garage between rides, the garage has been filling up with petrol fumes. It's not unusual. It's a carbureted bike, and okay, it's got the vacuum petrol tap, but I'm used to having a bit of a smell of petrol in the garage when I come in when the bike's been sat, but this is just getting richer and richer. And then a couple of nights ago I came in and there was a puddle of petrol underneath the there's 3 vent tubes, 2 vents. I think there's 2 vents from the tank and maybe 1 overflow from the carbs or whatever. There was a puddle of petrol on the floor. So I know the tap is not doing what it should do. So what I've done, I've run the petrol down anyway to pass the reserve, but it's still leaking even when I run the petrol down the tank past reserve, and then I put the tap back onto to the on position, thinking that will be above the petrol in the tank, so any petrol shouldn't be going down there and leaking through the tap, even if the vacuum's not working. Doesn't seem to be working that way. Anyway, I figured I'm having the tank off, I might as well give it a full service, do all the oil filter, air filter and plugs while I've got the tank off. So I've got all those bits, but the petrol tap, it's been tinkered with. When I bought the bike, they said, oh, the previous owner converted the petrol tap to just an on-off tap, but we can convert it back to a vacuum tap. So I said, yes please, thanks very much. So they did, and it's been fine so far, but something's going on in there. I'm going to take it off and go through it. I considered getting a petrol tap repair kit. They're about 25 quid, 30 quid, whatever. But until I take the tap apart, I won't know. I've got a feeling something's been bodged in there. And I've had a look at the Fowler's website, and a new complete petrol tap is 100 quid. So I'm going to have a look inside, see if it's something like a tear in the vacuum diaphragm or whatever, or the little smiley face thing's cracked or whatever. That I'll maybe try a repair kit, or I might just go for broke and pay the 100 quid just for peace of mind in future. I don't really want to, but there you go. Anyway, I'll take you for a little look round, because there's other bits I need to order as well. Simple job, draining the oil, taking the filter out, and I'm finding bits as I go along. So we'll have a quick look at what I'm doing. Okay, well, I've had to take the clutch pushy jobby out of the way to remove the oil filter housing. It sits in there, but that is in the way of you taking that out. So that's come out. This is what bolts it on. That goes in there. There's an O-ring at the bottom of that. There's supposed to be a washer, and then this spring, well, the washer is missing. I don't think it went in there. It might have gone in there. I'm pretty sure the way it come out with the filter in it, that's the filter paper cartridge. Spring first, filter on, and then it all goes in there. I think the washer's missing. I'm trying to think of which in the manual. I'll have to have a look in the manual, see where the washer's supposed to go. They do say have a look in your oil filter. If you can't see the washer, sometimes it's stuck to the filter, so I'm guessing the washer goes above the spring. I'll check in the manual anyway, there's good diagrams. So that's not a good start. The washer is missing. Could possibly be in there. I'll drain it out through a sieve. I've had a look in all my pots and I can't find a washer, so I'm going to order, I think I'm going to order the petrol tap for that, so I might as well order the washer for that. And this cap that goes on here, one of them's missing, just a bit of prettiness. There's one on the other side. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm a bit annoyed because I can't really put all that back together without the washer. So we'll see how we go on that. Anyway, I'm going to do the plugs, because when I bought it, it had a service, but it was obviously just an oil and filter change. Now, I think what leads me to think, as well as the petrol leaking out, just take you around the other side, as well as petrol leaking out of here, just vapouring and dripping, having dropped the oil, it smells petrol-y. So I'm guessing the carbs have been constantly flooding while it sat still, and that's been dripping its way down past the rings into the engine. It's a bit hard to tell because the whole garage stinks of petrol now, so I'm going to take this outside and have a good sniff, and another good reason to change the oil. Anyway, I'm going to try and have a look in the manual, see where the air filter goes. I think it's, sorry about shaking you around all over the place. I think she sits in there. Hopefully it's not take all this crap out. I have had a look at it before, but I can't remember where it went. So anyway, the manual will tell me. I'm pretty sure it's in there and it slides in. So anyway, I'll be back. Yeah, air filter lived in there. You've got that little scoop at the front. Then this bolts on top of the scoop. The scoop goes on there. Then the air filter lives in there, in the hole, and it's absolutely drenched with petrol. So it's a bit dark, but yeah, it's full of petrol. So definitely something going wrong here. Unless, of course, I've got a sticky float and it's just flooding past the float. There's always that. Interesting, but we'll see. I'll clean all this out, put the new air filter in, change the plugs, set the gaps. Okay, old plugs, they look about the right colour. Quite happy with those. It's not focusing, sorry. New ones to go in. That's a 0.8 mil gap, 0.8 to 0.9 mil gap. I've done them with a feeler gauge, so they'll be going down a little hole soon. Very interesting getting these out, because you've got some sort of air cowling thing, and you have to. I haven't looked in depth enough to see how that comes off, but I've worked around it, and I've actually had to use the bits from the toolkit instead of all my tools. I could only get in with this and then the spanner on top of it. So luckily I had the toolkit in the bike. So there you go. I would have had to improvise, but I'll get the plugs in and then we'll have a proper look at this fuel tap. And I'm sort of hoping it is the fuel tap now and not a stuck float, although the fuel taps 100 quid, and the needle and seat for a float's going to be pennies, so we'll see. Right, I've got the plugs in. That's a nice little struggle with that in the way, but anyway, got them done. I'm now going to have a look for the washer for that oil thing. I'm not happy to put it back in without the washer. The washer sits against that, this upside down housing. The bolt pressure relief valve thing goes through the middle, and then the spring, and then the washer, and then that. And the washer's just so that the spring's not pushing against the rubber seal. So I'm going to have a look. I'm going to drain that oil, sieve it through, and see if it's got in there. If not, I'm going to go through everything, try and find a washer, or pop down the road to some various places, see if I can get one. So let's see. Okay, oil filter and all that mechanism's back in. I managed to find a washer in my stash that was just the right size, so that's gone in. The original one wasn't in there. It wasn't in there. I've already filtered it through, so obviously somebody left that out. So that's good. That's 15 Newton meters. That says 1.5 kilograms per meter. It converts to 15 Newton meters. They're about 10 Newton meters. That's the clutch push rod cover. So that goes back in afterwards. Got the sump bolt back in, 43 Newton meters. I've put in 3 litres of 1040 semi-synthetic. It says 3 litres. What I've done is I've filled it, well, it's not quite 3 litres, I've filled it to the top of the sight glass max. And then when I run it, obviously it's going to fill up the oil filter, and the oil should be somewhere between the two lines. So when I get it all fixed with the fuel and that, I'll run it and see how it goes. As long as it's halfway up, that's good enough for me. It does say in there, in the manual, you can fill it up, run it, and if it's halfway up, you can actually top it up to the max, but I'm not sure. I'll see how it goes. So that's that. I'll just put the oil cap on it. What I'm going to do now is have a bit of a tidy up, sort out, and get the tank on the bench and have a look at the tap, which we'll see what's happening, because I'm not sure now. We might have a stuck needle and seat in one of the float bowls. I'm hoping it's not, because that's a proper faff. Even though it's nice and cheap to do, it's just real getting all this off. Okay, right, bike out of the way, tank's on the bench. I thought I'd test the tap first, see what's what, and my theory is that I've just put a couple of bits of spare hose on here. Theory is, if this is working, it's not leaking at the moment. There's a bit of drips where I've just been playing with it. It's not leaking. If I suck through that, it should open the tap. It's on reserve because I'm actually really low on fuel. So I'll just try and suck this and film it at the same time. Here we go. On reserve. There you go. So that's working. If I put it on prime, yeah, that's working. And that's stopped. Put it on reserve again and suck. That's working. Don't even know what that position is. And then this is on. That's on the on position. But there's not enough fuel in it anyway to get it. We're way down on the reserve now. But if I just suck that on the on position, nothing happening because there's no fuel. So back to reserve. Well, that appears to be working. What I'll do, I'll just clean this up, get it all dry, leave it for a bit, and then see if there's any seepage coming through with it all dried up. I need to get rid of all this volatile stuff. So I don't know, I may be looking at a stuck float in the carburetors, which will make it flood all the time. But I'll test this out first. Okay, well, the plot thickens. This all looks fine. All the components, they're all good. There's no dodgy bits whatsoever. Spring. That's the main bit. That's the bit that will cause it to leak. It's the diaphragm. If there's a split or a hole in it, it will just leak while the engine's not running. Well, it'll leak all the time. I've been all over this and it looks fine. All the components look fine in the fuel tap. And after me doing that test, sucking the tube, and it's working, I'm beginning to believe it's not this, but I'm going to whip this out of its little holder and hold it up to the light, make sure I haven't missed a little hole. Put it back together, and then I'm going to have to look into, I've put it all in together, see what happens, see if it carries on leaking. If it does, I'm going to have to get the carbs out. I've had them out once before where I can't remember what I was doing, tinkering. I was doing the inlet rubbers. So I'll have to take them out and go through them, and well, I'll check the float bolt, take the float bowls off, and check the floats, see if one of them's stuck, because I'm beginning to think that's what it is. But on the plus side, if that's not broken, that's good, because that's 100 quid for new tap. It's about 30 quid for a repair kit, but they tend to be a little bit iffy, the repair kits. I don't really like them, but so right, that's going back in, put it all back together, put it in the tank, put it back on that, and then see if we still leak. And if we do, it'll be tank off and carbs out, and we'll go from there. Right, well, fuel tap is working absolutely perfectly, nothing wrong with it. It's all back together, all back on. I've tested it again with the sucking the vacuum hose, and it's working exactly as it should do. So I suppose that's good news, because it's 100 quid or 30 quid for a repair kit. So my quandary now is, do I stick that back on the bike and see what happens, or do I take the carbs off now while I've got the tank off? I think what I'm going to do, because I've been on it at 5 or 6 hours now, I think I'm going to stick it all back on the bike, plug it all in, see what happens, and see if it actually leaks overnight. And if it does, I'll take the tank back off and then take the carbs out and have a look in the float bowls and see if I've got a sticky float needle and seat, maybe, or anything else. So I'll probably leave it there. And sorry, just thinking at the same time as filming. I'll leave it there, and then I'll continue, so it's all just one video of the whole process. I'll save it. So I'll see you in a bit. Right, well, I'm gonna knock it on the head for now. I haven't put the tank back on yet. I'm gonna leave it as it is till tomorrow. So I'll finish this video off. I'm guessing it's gonna be probably 15-20 minutes long already. So I'm gonna brew on it, stew on it, think about it overnight. I'm guessing tomorrow I will just take the carbs off while the tank's out of the way, and take it off the float bowls, check it out, see if I can see anything sticking in there, give it a bit of a clean through. Not going to strip the carbs properly unless I have to, unless there's it won't be a blocked idle circuit or a main jet. The only thing I can think is flooding. One of the carbs will be flooding. So I'll go for that. I'll take the carbs off tomorrow and knock this one on the head for now. So thanks for watching. I've been Springy. See you next time.